Well, thank you, everybody. I'm really happy to be here and to have the chance to talk to you about what Bruyère Continuing Care has been doing. I find it exciting. For me, it's a new field. I've joined Bruyère Continuing Care last year, so in April. So for me, I came from an acute care setting, so I'm learning and I'm seeing all the potential, and I'm really proud to be in long-term care, actually. So the Culture Change Initiative effort, what we saw is that there's many challenges with e-learning, and it's changing. The population is more complex. And so our education department has developed a plan to ensure that the continuity is reached and the high quality of care. And we wanted to also better accompany our residents and also our staff to help them value the learning program and to make it more varied and sustainable. So to know that it's a lifelong journey. So our top 3 recommendations, so I didn't put that at the end, I put that at the beginning. We mentioned, we developed a theme actually. So we said the learning is a passport to enhance the quality of care. So we were doing marketing a little bit with that. So we're using the theme over and over again so people would get a buzz, a sense of what was going on. Never stop learning, so that's something we tell people. Don't wait for us to tell you you need to do things. You can go and you can seek opportunities, and we're there to help you to do that, actually. So that's our role. And that's it. That's everybody's responsibility to seek out. So the challenges, I'm going to also provide you an overview of our 2 newest e-learning modules that we've built. And at the end of the presentation, I'm going to provide tips and tricks for the electronic documentation, because this is also a new change that's come on with the long-term care. And so that's something not to minimize. It's a big change. So I did say about the challenges. So our promotional strategies, what we do every time we launch a module is that we have a launch day. So we are actually going to the floors and we're bringing coffees and pastries and we're there. And so people really like that. And we do it at both sites. So Bruyère has a 3-site facility, but we have 2 floors of long-term care residence, and we have another site, which is Saint-Louis residence, and that's about 30-45 minutes away from the main campus. So it's quite a ways. So we try to make ourselves seen, and we're there, and they're not alone, because sometimes they do feel like they're a bit out of the picture because they're so far. So we try to make a presence and be there. And so the launch days are always the same. So when we do the 2 floors on the main site, the residents over in Orleans, they're launching on the same day, so they feel part of the team as well. What we found also by being there and launching those days is that we could troubleshoot also a lot of computer issues. So we were present for them. They were having issues even just like with their username and password connecting to the LMS. So we would troubleshoot that a lot. We would also provide teaching on how to register, how to see the to-do list and whatnot electronically. But we saw that electronically was not the only way to go about this either. So what we did is we created a passport to learning booklet, and so they could track their mandatory e-learnings on paper. So they could say, oh, I did this one, I need to do, I'm missing so many, and then they would sign off the dates. So they would know the next year what they would need to do. So we provided that to them tools. We also do posters with all the different e-learning modules, so they know these are the mandatory ones that they need to do yearly. And we provide pictures, so we try again to make a buzz. So those are the pictures that are included in the e-learning modules. Some of the pictures there are from residents, from staff, so people look at that and like, hey, she's in that e-learning video or module. So I'll connect, I'll see what she has to say, what she did in that module. So again, it's creating a sense of unity. And these are the posters we put out when it's the launch day. So to know that it's coming, and again, it's the theme. So it's the passport to learning, it's a voyage, it's a learning opportunity. So we always map out the length. So if it's a true 60 minutes, that's what we put. Who's the target audience and what are the deadlines? So up front, they know what needs to be done, when it needs to be done. And usually we provide a deadline of 3 months to complete the e-learning modules when they're launched. So during that time period also, we do not launch any other modules. We try not to do the e-learning fatigue. We try to make them focus on one thing, get it done, and then move on to the next thing. And we always, and I found this is really good, it's every time we launch, it's always bilingual. So we have both languages at the same time, and that was something that staff really appreciated. Our long-term care residents, the staff is more francophone, so they really valued that, and we were able to bring that to them. And then we have posters to remind them also, because it will happen. People will start and they won't finish, or they're just not getting there yet. And so at halfway point, we have a reminder, hey, it's November 15, by the way, you need to do this. And so that's been helpful to them, actually. So these are our 2 newest e-learning modules that we've developed at Bruyère. The first one is caring for patients with dementia. And again, we try to outline the target audience. The second one is the good principles of documentation, and this was targeted for different staff. And so we launched those 2 modules the same day. Dementia, by the way, is available on the CLRI website. So that's part of the presentation also. It's knowing what the resources we have, right, and not reinventing the wheel. So there's a lot of modules that I'll speak of later on in these slides that are free of use, available to you. So if you have an LMS, you could actually link to those modules, and then advices I was giving to other people is that after that you can create maybe a questionnaire just to verify what they retained. And also it will help you track who took it, you know, so you don't have to reinvent and build from scratch. So just an overview of caring with dementia, what it includes. Again, it's pictures, it's storytelling. This module is divided in 5 sections. So it's understanding dementia, caring during activities. So how do we go about doing that? Tips and tricks, so helpful things. What do we do when it's the dining room? How do we provide care there? How can we help our residents during personal care and then during lift and transfers? So the key features of the module, as you see, it's different staff. So in each of the 5 sections, it's a different staff member that tells a story about a resident. So it's very personal. And we saw that people liked that it was not just an RN talking, it's the PSW, it's maintenance, it's everybody. So again, it's to focus on teamwork and to show that everybody is important, everybody can contribute to the learning and to the well-being of the residents. So the way it's built also, there's a lot of self-reflection. So people will start the module and they'll test what they know. So recognize the symptoms. What do you know? So then again, it shows, oh, I thought I knew more about dementia than I thought I did, right? So then they'll pay more attention and they'll go through the module in that fashion. And then what I liked also about this module is that it provides strategies, quick things that they can do right after when they close the module, they can actually apply. Again, focusing on teamwork because it is a team effort. And then here it's rethinking dementia. So again, there's a lot of interaction, so drag and drop, and then you get to learn more about this. And at the end of each section, there's parting thoughts. So reminders, what needs to be done in the dining room, for example. So again, things that people can apply right away. So before you go. And what the good part also about this, when it's in an LMS, is that it will resume. So it's long. It's a 60-minute e-learning module. It's very thorough. But if you only have 15 minutes to spare, then that's how much you can put in. That's fine. And then when you come back, well, you start over. Like, you don't have to start over. You start where you left off. And that was a key seller point to the staff, actually, that didn't have to finish it all at once, because sometimes it's just not possible, right? And now the other module is the good principles of documentation. So the focus around that module was to reinforce good practices and to build it as a refresher to, again, people, the staff took that in class, right? They took that when they went to school, and so they should have kept it, right? But then again, the refresher, the way it's said, it's not as... it's not to say that they have to learn all over again, right? So we're building on what they already have. And so we're reinforcing good practice. We're also bringing abbreviations, the accepted ones, because we've seen many things going on. So the focus is, again, not on the negative, but on the positive. So building and moving forward. Also, a reminder that this is a tool for the continuity of care. It's not about you, it's about the resident, it's about the team, it's about moving forward and bringing the best care. Everybody's accountable, so again, that's being reinforced. And we're using positive slogans throughout, so good documentation equals good care. So this is the way it was built, again with the theme of the passport to learning. So we took a very dry subject and we tried to make it fun as an adventure. And so the staff will be visiting different countries, and each time they will learn something new about documentation. And after each country they visit, they get a stamp. So again, it's about, oh, I wonder what the next stamp's going to be like, right? Doesn't take much. And so again, it brings them to a sense that they want to finish this. They want to see the end result. So here are a couple of screens. This is part of the quizzing part. So we brought handwriting. We tried to make it really resonate with them, things they see on a daily basis. And so with that, regardless if they have a good or a bad answer, feedback is provided regardless, and so we are reinforcing key messages again. The point is not to fail or pass, the point is that the message has got across and it's getting there, right? We're changing the culture. Also, there's a focus charting part. So again, really illustrating what needs to be done. So when we launched this module, it was back in January of this year. The electronic documentation hadn't started yet. So we were focusing on paper and then electronic as well because we knew it was coming. So we made it very broad so that it wouldn't be outdated, basically. And so focus charting was one of the main issues that needed to be covered. And then at the end, of course, there's a final quiz recapping everything, but it's a quick one. It's about 10 questions. It's not, again, about passing or failing because we quizzed them as we went along. It's just for them to retain and to know what are the next steps for them to get better at documentation. One of the things also that we did at Bruyère, again, about adult education. So first year, they have to go through the theory because we want everybody to be on the same page. Year 2 comes around, we have built another e-learning module that permits them to skip through the theory and go straight to quiz. Because in theory, they should have maintained it, they should have done things, right? So again, so if they skip and they go straight to the quiz, they might have not passed there because there's going to be a grade. So if they don't pass, then they have to take the theory again, and so they'll pay more attention again. So that's the reasoning behind this. And we actually do that even at orientation. So new staff will come in. For example, WMIS will let them skip to the quiz right away because maybe they did WMIS at their other organization or they're straight out of school or whatnot. And so we allow them to do that. So they have choices, right? So, and then they see where they're at, what they need to do. This is the board. This is the board of all the e-learning modules that are mandatory for every year. So it's a yearly thing. If you want a poster of this, I have brought the posters. I have cards also with a QR code that you can scan and you'll get the same thing in PDF. And so out of all these modules, there's only 3 that are not built by CLRI. So we have number 6, which is continence care and bowel management that was built in-house in our learning department. Number 10, the good principles of documentation. And number 11 is coming soon. It's managing pain. So again, it's about knowing what's out there, the resources. So out of all the 11th, you have many things that are already pre-built. We have the same requirements. We have the same things we need to test our staff on. So take advantage of that. The lessons learned. So a good thing about this project is that there was a study that was conducted afterwards with the staff to see what they thought about this long-term care educational series. What they liked and disliked was that we were very transparent with the length of the modules, but they found that some were too long. 60 minutes is quite a time. And they found that they could not complete when they were working, and that's what was expected of them, but they just didn't have time. So they would give maybe a 10-15 minutes, but then that's about how much they could give in a day for e-learning. So then it was expected that they would take it after hours or at home or whatnot, because we did provide access from home for the LMS. But again, that was not proving that good of a solution. So what we ended up doing also is alternate. So in a year, last year, it was e-learning that was mandatory and they needed to go through. And this year what we did is that we provided an education day, we freed them from their duties, and then we did workshops. So they would go to different workshops and they would still cover all the mandatory ones, and they were done after that day. So again, it's listening to them and seeing that you can't just do it virtually. Some preferred, actually. Some of them actually came up to me and said, I did it all online and I don't need to go to that day. I'm like, okay, that's fine. You know, you have choices. That's the good part again. What we saw also from the study was that there was issue with the computer literacy. So big curve. We can't assume that everybody's good with computers. So when were doing launch days, we were palliating a lot to that. And they were really pleased that we were there and helping them out. The language proficiency also came out. So that was interesting. Sometimes our questions, they were not being answered or they were having issues. And what we found is that we needed to bring it down to a grade 3 level type of words, basically, of phrasing and whatnot. So one of the things, and it's at the bottom, but it's relating to this, what we're going to do, and we've done a little bit, but we're going to make it mandatory, is that we will test our modules with the staff. We will take out a couple of champions and we will say, oh, how do you think? How did we fare out? Was that clear or not clear? So it will prevent a lot of frustrations, because we want to get away from the frustration. We want to make them feel empowered, and we want to make them feel good after they've done e-learning, not like, oh my God, I know nothing and I'm not good enough or whatnot, right? So we want to make them feel self-confident. So they really appreciated the launch day, the posters, the reminders, the presence, having a face, because most of the time in the learning department we're in our offices, we're building stuff, but they were happy to see that we were there and part of the group. Also, interestingly enough, they preferred taking the modules in groups. So sometimes we arranged sessions where 10 staff would come in and we would just play the e-learning modules, and then we would quiz them at the end. The only downfall to that was that we needed to quiz everybody, because some were speaking, some were not speaking, you know, the dynamics. And so what we're going to learn and do from that is we're going to probably do a quiz paper and then pass it on to everybody and get their feedback and how they did, and if they needed a bit more follow-ups, then we would probably recommend taking the e-learning module as a follow-up. And also provide hints after 2 attempts. So you're quizzing them, they're having issues, and they're stuck. And so why not provide a hint? The goal, again, is not failing and passing. It's really, did you get the message? Are you getting better? Do you know what to do? So again, it's helping them out, finishing it and feeling self-confident. So now I'm going to switch to the electronic documentation part. What we've seen, and also, well, we're using point-click care. I don't know if it's the norm for everybody in long-term care. And then that's for clinical staff, and PSWs are using point-of-care. So we've just implemented that recently at Bruyère. And what we saw is that people, they get to the training, there's a lot of information. It's a day long or 2 days, depending on your background there. And they leave and they're cognitively overloaded. They don't know where to start. We've taken the paper away from them. It was their point of reference. So what we saw is that they need to go back to it and just take a step back and picture mentally how to get to the information they need to document on. What's important? What needs to be done in a day? And we can do a lot for them to help them out, like to get started, but eventually it comes back down to they need to mentally visualize it. Like we did when we had the paper chart. We knew that the red tab was for nurses and the yellow tab was for physicians or physios or whatnot. And so they need to mentally see it, to basically engage more with it, to know that it's their tool, it's not their, it's there to help them. It's the only way around this. And so identifying the most frequent interventions, they do that when we do the training, but again, it's for them to know how to get there, because there's many steps with computers, you all know, even with Word or Excel, you can right-click, you can Control-V, Control-C, whatnot, so there's many ways to get there, and there's no wrong way, as long as you get to the destination, and that's what we tell them as well. So maybe your colleague does 2 clicks, you do 5 clicks. At the end, is it done? Yes, that's fine then. So the tips and tricks still, so it's changing personal habits because the problems were already there. We switched from paper to electronic, and what we found out was that it just made it more evident of the problems that were there, and they couldn't hide anymore. And so batch documentation was a big issue when it was paper, but they had reasons, right? The blame or whatnot we saw with Brené Brown. So it's not my fault the chart is being used by the physician or the physio or the whatnot, right? And so now there's no excuse because there's different stations, it's available anytime, you just need to sit and log in. And so it's changing that mentality of not batch documenting and doing it as you go. And it is faster, but it's again taking the time in your day and saying, I'm sitting for 5 minutes and I'm doing this. And I just did recently a QI project. It was simple enough. It was about Snack Pass, but it evolved and it became so big, and we talked about so many other things. And one of them was that sometimes they were sitting down at 2:30 or not, and they were documenting the whole day. And then and they were saying, oh, it takes so long, and that's part of the problem where we were having issues doing the Snack Pass or whatnot. And I said, why are you waiting at the end of the day? Do you remember what you did this morning? Is it really accurate? Is it still fresh in your mind? And then they were looking at me, they didn't want to answer that one, right? And I said, well, try to think of how you can do it quicker. And if you're retaining the information and you're putting it in your pocket, how is it helping the other ones, helping the resident? It's not helping, and that's the tool. The tool is meant to be used so everybody has access to the information. Regardless if it's paper or electronic, critical value should be reported within 15 minutes, and that's to a nurse, or to a physician it's 30 minutes. So regardless of whatever tools you're using, documentation always needs to be objective and accurate. And again, it's not all softwares that have grammatical or spelling error checks. So what I tell the staff usually, I just say, write the words you know. Don't go fancy. Just write what you know, and then you know you're not making any mistakes. So it's about change, basically, changing the attitude towards electronic documentation. It's not your enemy. It's supposed to be a tool to help you save time in the long run. But again, it's about using it the right way. Because if you're not using it the right way and you're taking too many routes to get to what you need to do, then of course it's not saving you time. We need the nurses' inputs, or the PCAs, or the PSWs, I mean. So that's what, every time I go on the floor, even with the QI snack project, that's what I was telling them. You have the right to say, it's not working. And why is it not working? That's the most important part. And what I tell them also is, who are you telling this to? Are you telling this to your colleague, or are you telling this to management? Who are you telling it to makes a big difference, because do they have the power to change something or not? Because if you're not telling it to the right person, then it's kind of complaining. It's not the same thing. It won't move forward, right? So charting is always about the patient. And in the long run, and that's something we did not learn in school. I'm an RN by background, and the documentation was taught, but how does it impact the actual workload and the funding and whatnot? It does impact it. And so we need to bring back to that level and say, if it's a 2% assist, it will make a difference in the funding. It needs to be evident. It needs to stand out from the documentation. So again, it's about empowering them to say that what they're doing has an impact for everybody in the organization, and it's bringing money in. So I will end by saying this. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, and I think we've heard that today. So failure is okay. Again, it's about getting back up, doing something different, and moving forward. And if you want to keep in touch, I have those posters and cards. I'd be happy to provide you with more information. And also I could send you the references that were used to build this module. this presentation. Thank you.
Comments? Oh, there we go. Got it. Josie, thank you.
Hi, Marie. Is
Hello.
the electronic documentation module going to be made available widely, or is it for internal to Bruyère only?
The e-learning modules, the one from
The documentation one in particular.
Oh, the documentation one. Well, if you're interested, you can definitely reach out to me. Like I said, it's very broad. It was based with the College of Nurses of Ontario standards and practice and guidelines, whatnot. So if you're interested, I could definitely send you a link if you want to view it first and see if it applies for your organization.